Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with yours truly, Line of All Trades, here in the Lion's Den, to give you a brief update on this stock. Ticker symbol FNGR, finger motion. And this stock has been talked about for about a couple of years, ever since it came into light, when it had its I guess you want to call it sneeze, back in October of 2022. Well, mainly towards the end of September, going into the beginning of October of 2022. And we're also going to be discussing something interesting that I've been realizing, I've been finding for the past week. And before that, before I get into the video, you already know the deal. Show some love. Hit that like button, and if you haven't yet, subscribe. It's free. It doesn't cost you a thing to do so, but the support and the love is appreciated, and love goes back to you. And thank you. So, anyways, let's go ahead and take a look real quick first on the monthly chart. Yeah. And we're going to see how this stock looked like in general throughout the history of this stock in the chart. You can see here we have this big situation that happened from around May of 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic, all the way towards the month of February of 2021. To be exact, we're talking about a week before the whole GME debacle that took place, the huge short squeeze, and at the same time, Finger was heading up higher and higher ever since May of 2020, from a low of perhaps 17 cents and going as high as $17 on the mark there before getting massively shorted, perhaps allegedly naked shorted too as well, since there had been a lot of cases of this going on with this stock. But you could see its trajectory and how much it has gone down ever since. And you can see it had a few more scenarios like this, not quite as much, but the one that everybody does remember, which was back around September to October of 2022, where the stock came all the way back down to around 60 something cents, 62 cents, and then sneezed all the way back up to as high as $9.80, and then getting dropped back down right around a dollar, and then to go back up to as high as $7.97. And this was back in 2003 of September as well. So a lot of situations here occurring during the fall, even though I don't think seasons have anything to do with it. But you never know. You never know if this is a reoccurring situation here, that a stock likes to sneeze or squeeze during a certain season. But how interesting would that be? But anyways, now fast forward to today, to now, 2025. We're in the month of April, and the last run up that it had back here again to 2023 from June, actually a low of $1.01 of the month of March. Okay, the month of March, it had a consolidation period from the next couple of months as it trended up slowly, and then Finger had a huge pop of the month of the month of June, where it went up from 130 to as high as 435. Then the month of July, from a low of 309 to as high as 716. And then the month of September of 2023, from a low of 482 to as high as 797, which was the last top that we would ever get to see finger at that time. And then dropping all the way back down to these revisited levels from 2023 and even 2022. It really likes that dollar level, and it had bounced there from the low, which is the current 52-week low of 103, and the 52-week high of 396. So now we have a situation that it has found another bottom, just like it did around this time, and here too, where it all now shows similar behaviors. And surprisingly, here on the monthly chart, just looking at this happen, you could see there's a little bit of an uptrend from this bounce, and now testing this trend line going up. We have yet to decide if there is an actual confirmation of that bottom. As you can see here on the monthly MACD, there is momentum here on the rise, and you can tell that there is sort of a flattening on that MACD line, which is the green. And if this is indeed a signal for finger to start heading back up for this month of April, then that is very bullish, in my opinion. Just remember that this video is, in fact, for educational, research, and entertainment purposes. So just know that anything that's being said here is just strictly in my opinion, and it's not financial advice. But anyways, that's my take on this. And if we look at the weekly chart, you can also see that there is still somewhat of a consolidation, and there was a bounce this previous week from that trend line there that I drew out here, and hoping that this week can turn around and become a green week, because what we need to see is finger break back over between the ranges of 145 and 150. If we can definitely break out clean past 150, 165 could be next. And hey, if there's a lot of volume that can start pouring in at that point, you could definitely see this reach back to $2. And that is my prediction before this month is over. Not stating that this is going to happen next week or the week after, but I'm giving it a month ahead because of the way that it has been consolidating from what I'm seeing here for the past couple of months beforehand. So, and now to talk about the short interest situation, the cost to borrow, the days to cover. Sorry about the ads on the side. It's not sponsored, okay? I'm not sponsored by Mazda. But anyways, take a look at the short interest ratio. And what I've been noticing for the past week is that the short interest ratio has been spiking every day since last week, since April 2nd. And I'm going to show you that in just a few moments. Right now, currently, the short interest at 2,549,163 shares. And the short interest percentage of the float is 6.11%. the off-exchange short volume ratio at 25.62%. Currently at this time, 1:09 p.m. Eastern Time. Here, last updated, the last change since 2 days ago. FNGR has 200,000 short shares available. And the cost to borrow, which seems to be fluctuating up and down here, but the max is now higher than what it was from Thursdays at 14.21% to 17.41% in fees. It could change later on today since futures opens, 24-hour markets open. So those numbers could change. So we would have to see. Would have to refresh and find out. But other than that, I'm just going to show you a couple of screenshots that I took since April 2nd to show you what I mean. So what we have here is a screenshot from April 2nd. And at the time of the close, FNGR was trading at, well, it had closed at $1.45. And you can see here the days to cover that they was at about 11.95 days to cover, with short interest percentage of the float being at 4.87%. And this was a bit before I decided to refresh the page. And what happened was then the short interest ratio updated to 13.14 days to cover. And then so then the next day, actually no, on April 4th, then the short interest ratio spiked up even more to 14.33 days to cover. And now fast forward to now at 19.83 days to cover. You come to think and wonder, well, this is odd, but then again, this is a very big deal, because what could be happening? Something must be going on. And this puts a lot of pressure on shorts in general, because I did have a conversation with ChatGPT and a time to, discover more. And the fact that this is the case, what it says here, it says that it means that shorts are getting even more trapped, and the time required for them to cover keeps increasing. So in theory, if the volume spikes, that we could see FNGR at an even tighter squeeze setup. This is all from ChatGPT, all right? So just take it as such, and remember, just do your own research. But you tend to figure out, like, is this something brewing? Could we be seeing another scenario here? And now look at it as a potential short squeeze setup. Anything can happen, but with those type of numbers, that really had me thinking. And knowing also the fact that FNGR's volume on Friday was only at 92.46 thousand shares traded, compared to the day before was 96.77 thousand. Then on the 9th, it was a lot higher at 169.75 thousand shares traded. So shares are drying up, and on top of that, the short interest ratio is spiking. So you guys tend to use your imagination and wonder, are we getting close? But all we can do is just speculate at this point. But that is very interesting. And we're going to look quickly before this video is over. The options chain. And take a look at the max pain. And the max pain for finger, all states here from April 17, May 16, August 15, November 21st, expiration dates, that the max pain is at $1, except for January 16 of 2026, which is at $1.50. And the ones expiring for this Friday coming up, you only have 518 of those that were in the money and 9,612 that were out of the money. Barely puts. There's barely any puts at all. But then you have the calls for May 16 expiration date with just 210 in the money, but 14,310 of them out of the money. So not only that date, but the January 16 calls are both the highest out of the money. And if we look at the options chain, let's see. It looks like there has been a lot of calls for the $5 strike. And I also did have a conversation with ChatGPT about this and wondering, in theory, what would happen if Finger had a gamma squeeze set up instead, and if we would start seeing a surge in out of the money call volume and open interest, especially in short dated expirations, that it could be the first sign of a potential gamma squeeze setup. So those are a few things that we all would need to look after, and if we see a surge in options volume and open interest for those dated contracts. So I feel like that is something that we will have to see for this week, and therefore stay tuned, because I think there's definitely something brewing, in my opinion. I could be wrong, all right? I admit, it's okay to be wrong. But with those type of numbers, I think this is something that everybody should definitely pay attention to. And we'll see what happens this week and for the rest of the month of April. So yeah, that's the video for today. And again, this was only for educational and research and entertainment purposes, and that everything and anything that was said in this video was strictly in my opinion, not financial advice. You already know what to do if you like this video. Show some love. If you haven't yet, please subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video with yours truly, Lion of All Trades in the Lion's Den. Peace out.